In this unit, we will be constructing a biomorphic form using coils of clay. To begin with, we will need a board, a paper towel, some water, a toothbrush, a fettling knife, and a piece of comb. Start by taking a small amount of clay and form it into some shape. It does not have to be circular, but this method of construction is best suited to rounded forms, so I suggest making a curved shape, maybe with concave and convex edges. It should be flattened to about 1/4 inch thickness. Mine is kind of kidney shaped. When the shape is made, it is placed on a board with a paper towel separating them. Take a piece of clay and squeeze it with your hand. Let go and turn it around, and then squeeze it again, making it into a thick cylinder. From here, start to roll the clay under your hand, going from the tip of your fingers to the base of your hand. Starting on the left end, gradually move your hand to the right and then back again, steadily making the cylinder thinner and longer. Be careful not to push down too hard, squishing it, but you want to make a 1/2 inch coil or rope soon. If you take too long, the surface will dry out and then it will crack when you start to bend it. The coil should be long enough to reach all the way around the outer edge of the shape just made. When the coil is the correct thickness and wrapped around the base edges, the ends are cut at an angle so that they overlap, making them easily joined for a stronger bond. Score, make small marks in the clay on the top edge of the base and underside of the coil with a comb. Always score when two pieces of clay are being joined. Then form a watery clay called slip by scrubbing water into the scored areas with a toothbrush. This acts like glue to hold the clay parts together. Place the coil of clay on top of the base, lining up the edges, and gently press them together. Also slip and join the coil ends. In this unit, we will smooth the coils together to form a continuous surface. On the outside, pull clay up from the base to meet the coil, eliminating the crevice. Do not pinch the clay, just drag it. I like to brace the inside or top edge of the coil when I do this, so as not to distort the form. On the inside, drag some clay from the coil down to the base, sealing them together. To keep the form from distorting outward, cup your hand around the exterior like a mold, keeping it in place. You want to leave the coil around 1/4 inch thick when everything has been smoothed together. Make another coil in the same manner, squeezing clay into a cylindrical shape and rolling it to the correct diameter and length. I could continue to build one coil directly on top of the other, but the resulting form would be boring and be much more efficiently achieved through other means. Coils are much more conducive to creating forms that undulate and sway and move and constantly change. To make that happen, one side goes out or gets bigger by placing the coil on the outside of the coil beneath it. The other end can get smaller by placing the coil on the inside. To review, to make a form get bigger, place the coil slightly on the outside. Gradually transition from the outside to the inside. And to make the form smaller, place the coil on the inside. Be careful not to go out or in too quickly, or the pot will collapse. Build with one coil at a time, so remember to cut the coil ends at a slant to overlap them. Score and slip the ends together. Flip the coil over and comb and toothbrush all surfaces. Where the coil goes to the inside, score on the inside of the base and switch over to the outside where the coil is making the form bigger. On the coil to be added, comb on the inside where it goes over the edge, and the outer bottom of the area where it lays on the inner edge. Slip by brushing with the toothbrush. Then flip the coil over, aligning it where it should go. Then gently press together. Holding the coil in place so it doesn't move with one hand, gently pull clay down from the top coil, or up from the lower coil. Usually clay is dragged from the coil that is sticking out the most. So here, where the top coil is placed on the inside, clay is pulled from the bottom coil. But where the upper coil sticks out past the bottom coil, clay is taken from it down to the bottom coil. Don't pinch the clay, because then the coil will get longer, making it flare out over the edge too far. When you come to the areas that go straight up and down, clay can be taken from either or both. Once the clay coils have been fused together, smooth them out and refine the form with horizontal strokes. Then move to the inside, pulling clay in the same manner as the outside. Up when the bottom coil sticks out more than the top, and push the clay down where the upper coil overhangs the lower one. Again, once the coils are joined, smooth out the roughness and refine the form. So now you can see where the surface is going inward on one side and out on the other end. I'm going to continue to do the same thing with the next coil. Score the rim of the sculpture again in the appropriate places for the coil to go in or out. Score the top of the new coil and slip both parts. Then put the prepared surfaces together, placing the coil in the desired orientation. Outside to get bigger or go out, and inside to get smaller or move in that direction. Overlap the ends with a slant. Take a piece of clay and squeeze it and make sure to score and slip them every time. Smooth the ends together and gently press the coil down. Again, pull clay from the part that sticks out further over the edge than the other coil, filling the spaces between them, making sure to brace the opposite side to maintain the form. Once the coils are totally joined, smooth the surfaces and refine the form. You can pick up the sculpture and turn it around, looking at the form as you push it in and out, and smooth it into the shape you want. Do not be in a hurry to put the coils on. Art is not a race. Pay attention to the form and surface. When smoothing, run your fingers over the surface in different directions, horizontally, vertically, and at various diagonals, to get rid of sudden dents and bumps, creating an integrated form. I'll do a few more coils to continue this movement, placing coils on the inside and outside, making the sculpture turn or wrap around itself. The pot is now taller and moves around itself, slanting in on one side and overhanging a lot on the opposite side. So, if I turn the sculpture around, you can see how the form is developing. As I was working on the sculpture, the place that most drew me was this dipped-in area here. So I decided I wanted to change the contour of the rim by making a sudden change in direction, making a corner where the convex, rounded out surfaces become a concaved or dipped-in area. Then, over time, as the sculpture gets taller, the dip end will get deeper, almost making a hollow. One end may become a cylinder by itself that will interact with the concave area. I'll score on the outside of the big loop. Then, when I come to the inward space, I will all of a sudden score the inside of the top, and then go back outside, where I want the convex surface to be. The top of the loose coil is scored, and both are slipped. Place the coil on top, making sure to vary where the ends join for strength. The coil is aligned for the contour desired, making distinct corners where the concave part is. Remember to overlap the ends for strength. The coils are then smoothed together by dragging clay from the outmost part to the inner one. Simultaneously, the other hand is bracing the form, avoiding distortions. Instead of having the corner all of a sudden show up, I extend it down a little, gradually fading it out. I'm going to continue to build up by adding more coils at the same time, pushing the concave surface further and further back in. Looking at the whole form from all sides, it is easy to see how much more interesting sculpture is. Now, at this height, you can see the concave surface has almost come around to touch itself, changing the overall shape quite a bit. As I move on from here, there are many potential avenues. I could make a tube of the concave area, touching the back of the sculpture, forcing the two ends to become a cylinder that would somehow interact with each other. What I'm going to do is create a bridge that ties the front and back surfaces together, making two separate tubes that interact. Starting with a small lump of clay, form a narrow rectangle that has 2 fingers or pinchers on each end. It will wrap around the concave area and spread out onto the convex surfaces. Then, the middle of the rectangle will be arched up like a bridge, making one plane flow into the other. Lastly, I'm going to pull the outside edges of the bridge up to continue the concave form and setting up for the 2 cylinders to grow out of it. Some parts might have to be modified through cutting, shaping. Once the final configuration is arrived at, it is scored and slipped on. Smoothing everything together so that it flows. Small lumps of clay are added to set the openings up for a cylindrical building. Making separate openings like this, they do not have to be round or symmetrical. In fact, the created openings could be divided again using another bridge. These techniques are to be used creatively to create the form, pot, or sculpture you want. At this point, I've decided that 2 tubes will wind around each other. To do this, I want the form not just to move one way or the other, but to turn. To do this, I want to make one side taller and curve while the other side stays the same. Starting with a thick coil, both ends are made to come to a point. And long enough to go all the way around the lip once. Flatten the center of the coil out so it is the same thickness as the width of the sculpture's walls. and curve it into a smile. Placing it on the rim, overlapping the ends, I score and slip and smooth it together. Making it start to slant or bend. When working with coils like this, make sure you smooth the inside of the coils together onto the base, not just the outside. Otherwise, it could come apart later. I will continue putting on these lozenge-shaped coils, altering where I place the tallest part to make the sculpture turn in the way I want. I'll do the same thing to the other opening, making the two cylinders encircle each other, creating a metaphor for a couple kissing. Remember to make the coil pointed on both ends, flattening it to the wall thickness that will reach all the way around the rim once. Make it into a smile and arrange the fit. Then, score, slip, and smooth it on, defining and refining the form as you go. Remember to take your time. Do not hurry. But also, do not just let the sculpture sit there without doing something. Now you can see the cylinders are encircling each other. The final state has now been achieved, with a lot of dramatic movement as the cylindrical forms wrap around each other into a metaphor for the kiss. The convex swells and concave hollows are more defined with a clear border between them, creating a path for the eye to enter the sculpture. In one instance, an interior becomes an exterior form, further leading the eye over the sculpture. There is always something happening at all angles, a new surprise to make you want to continue to go around to more discoveries. You can see one entity is leaning back while the other hovers over. Even the heart shape, with exiting arteries, adds to the complexity of design and meaning of the sculpture. Final smoothing and refining the form and surface is done, and then it is bisque fired and glazed.